All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is the community forum on the Cedar Rapids School Bond. I'm Gazette Executive Editor Zach Kaczarski, and over the next hour, we're going to hear details and dive into greater depth on the Cedar Rapids Community School District Bond referendum that is going to voters November 4th, and we will be talking quite a bit about that this evening. A little bit about logistics. Tonight I'm joined by representatives of the Cedar Rapids School District, as well as a representative for Believe and CR Schools, and we'll hear from them in a couple minutes. And then I will open it up for questions. And so if you have questions, there are notepads around, and Elena from our team will be collecting those, and I will work those into the conversation as we get through. So if you've got questions, please use the pads and the pencils, and we will collect those and work them into the conversation. The Gazette is recording the forum tonight. We'll make that available. It is not live. We've learned our lesson from some of that in the past. And we are going to make that available on thegazette.com tomorrow. And so if folks want to hear that, it will be available there. We're going to start with the ballot language, and I'm going to read old school style the ballot question that if you've early voted, you've already seen this. If you have not voted, this is the question that is going to the voters. Shall the Board of Directors of the Cedar Rapids Community School District in the County of Lynn, State of Iowa, be authorized to contract indebtedness and issue general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $117 million to provide funds to remodel, repair, improve, including architectural, civil, electrical, HVAC, safety and accessibility, structural and technology upgrades, furnish and equip McKinley Middle School building, Wilson Middle School building to convert to elementary programming, Roosevelt Middle School building, and Kennedy High School, including constructing, furnishing, and equipping additions to add a freshman academy and expand commons and kitchen areas and site improvements. So under Iowa campaign rules, school district officials can't tell you how to vote, but they can explain the ask that goes to the voters. And so joining us tonight from the Cedar Rapids Community School District is Dr. Tawana Grover and the Director of Operations, Chad Schumacher. Dr. Grover, do you want to just give a quick introduction of yourself, and then I'll have Chad do the same, and then jump into the presentation.
Yes, thank you so much, Zach, and to the Gazette for hosting this forum. It's always a wonderful opportunity to bring our community together, especially around the subject of education. I am Dr. Tawana Grover, the superintendent for the Cedar Rapids Community School District. You probably already know that. This year, I am entering my 30th year in education. Born and raised in the state of Alabama, where I started my journey in education as a 5th grade teacher. And the thing that really drove me to education at that point was really thinking about the opportunities that our students have when they graduate from high school. I didn't quite know what that route was going to be for me, and so I've been passionate about that for a very long time. And each time I'm with the community, and especially ours here in Cedar Rapids, it always makes me feel like I'm right at home and I'm in the right place when the community is mobilizing around things that will impact the future. And so I'm so excited about where we stand in this room tonight, that we were able to bring voices together and really help to shape a path forward for the future of education for the students of Cedar Rapids. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening. My name is Chad Schumacher, Director of Operations for the Cedar Rapids Community School District. My 2-year anniversary was on the 19th of October when I joined Cedar Rapids Community School District, just weeks before the previous bond votes. But I am a lifelong Cedar Rapidian, grew up here and have family still here, and am very proud to be able to work for the district and to work towards making our facilities the best they can be for our students of the district.
All right, thank you both. And Dr. Grover, do you want to kind of take us through and detail the ask to the voters? And I'm going to move from the podium, and you are running the show.
So maybe where we will start here tonight is really thinking about walking through how we got here. I think I do remember being here a couple of years ago in 2023. And what a wonderful opportunity to be able to engage our community and understand how we co-create opportunities for our students. So as I walk through a little bit of our journey, and I like to call it our journey because our community has certainly been a great part of it. I want to start by really talking about the priorities of our school district. While we are here to talk about the bond, I think it's important to understand how the bond is actually, it is the page turner to the next chapter of education here in the Cedar Rapids Community School District. Our Board of Education, we do have our board president, Garlock, here with us tonight. We've landed on these 4 key priorities. We want to ensure that our schools are safe and secure by really focusing on supports for our students as well as our staff members. We are really focused on our students having a great education while they're in our schools, but also making sure that they are prepared for life. We want to make sure that our staff and our families, that they see themselves as partners in this work, and that we have two-way communication and engagement where they have collective ownership in the work that's happening within the Cedar Rapids Community School District. These 4 key priorities, they have been developed with lots of feedback and conversations. And overall, in order for us to keep our schools safe, in order for our students to be prepared for life, and for our families to know that they're investing in a solid education system, we know that we have to be physically responsible. And the bond will allow us to certainly move the needle in ensuring that we have sustainability across our district as we think about our staffing within our organization, which so much of it is built upon enrollment. So everything we do, including our facilities, it ties back to our key priorities. So let's see how we got here tonight. The plan has been shaped deeply by our community engagement, multiple rounds of feedback that help us co-create the plan that the community asked for. And over the last several months, we've been activating that plan to bring us to where we are today, the bond on the ballot on November the 4th. We framed this work into 3 phases of engagement, co-creation, and activation. Each phase has been driven by one core belief, that we believe in our community and our community believes in its schools, and that together we can shape a future that reflects who we are and what we value in Cedar Rapids. Our schools, they belong to the community, and our community deserves to have a voice in shaping that path. We began with engaging with our community by listening, learning, and rebuilding trust. Thanks to a lot of people that were willing to sit around the tables with us, we believe that we are moving in that direction. We met with key community leaders, including the mayor, city council members, early on to discuss the past bond efforts and to identify what the focus should be moving forward. It's important that we connect to the larger vision of the community in which we live. We also brought on an organization, Shine Hattery and MA Plus. It was one of the greatest learning pieces from the 2023 efforts, is that the community, they wanted to have voice at the table. In past practices, maybe there was a few committees that worked, but the broader community wanted to have voice. And so that allowed us to hit the pavement, get out into the community, and sit down and talk knee to knee with people in small groups and larger groups. So over several months, we met with over 100 individuals across Cedar Rapids, Hiawatha, Robbins, and Palo. Business leaders, faith leaders, parents, teachers, retired administrators, government officials, and nonprofit partners. We also attended neighborhood meetings, listening directly to the people who live in the neighborhoods where our schools would be located. Also during this time, we sent out a survey to all 70,000 registered active voters, asking for their feedback on the bond proposal that did not pass. Once again, our community, they answered the call, showing that they do believe in our schools, providing thousands of comments and valuable insights. We did not see this as pushback, but we saw it as a way forward by embracing the feedback that we've received from our community. The April survey, it generated more than 9,000 responses, and 3 messages came loud and clear to us. There was strong support for the PEPL, with more than 70% of the voters in favor. The community, they wanted us to reconsider the direction for Harrison Elementary. And there was clear support for creating a more focused bond plan. As a matter of fact, the question is, should we reconsider a new bond? And overwhelmingly, they responded, yes, bring us back a new plan. We also gathered additional data around college and career pathways, which helped us to ensure that any facilities plan that we proposed would directly support student learning. All of that community feedback, it helped shape the work of our facilities task force, people that were dedicated to this project specifically. A group of more than 80 individuals who met regularly over 8 months. Their role was to analyze the data, review building conditions, and begin designing a plan that would truly support student success across our district. Around that same time, we brought together a new group of parent leaders also. It was important for us to hear from community members, but also our parents who have students in our schools. Parent leaders of more than 60 voices representing every level in every neighborhood. Their insights help us to better understand from families' perspectives. Using all of that to input the task force, we developed an initial bond plan. That plan was shared publicly and tested again through another survey and sent to all registered voters, along with a parallel survey that was conducted by the Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance, which you will hear from Ron later. The message was also clear. We continue to refine based on the input from our community. That's what leadership does. We listen and we move together. We move forward together. The community, they recognize the need. However, the original proposal was too expensive given the current economy, and we honor that. People wanted us to invest in existing schools rather than build new ones. So the task force, we went back to work. They cut the overall cost nearly in half and created a plan that focused on renovating McKinley, Wilson, and Roosevelt, also Kennedy, ensuring equity, modernization, a strong foundation for the future, and the top priority, safe and secure learning environments. We also made a commitment to take that revised plan directly to our people, to our staff members. We visited every school building. We met with over 600 staff members across 16 buildings and held dedicated sessions for teachers, principals, parent leaders, students, and community cabinets. Each meeting allowed for honest questions, direct feedback, continuous improvement. It has truly been a collaborative process. Finally, in phase 3, our focus was on activation, informing our community and gathering signatures needed to get on the bond ballot. Again, when the community took ownership, led by the efforts of the Economic Alliance, they were able to get out even before the summer break, visiting like the farmers market, community events, and neighborhood gatherings. Many people in this room I see that helped collect signatures. Those efforts paid off, and now the bond is officially on the November 4th ballot. Since the start of this school year, families and communities, they have been informed about what's included in the plan and why it matters to the students of the Cedar Rapids Community School District and to the future of Cedar Rapids. Every step in this process, every conversation, every meeting, every survey has brought us to this moment. And we pause to say thank you to the community. This is your plan, a plan that reflects our community's priorities, values, and vision for the future of education in Cedar Rapids. And so now I will turn it over to Chad Schumacher, our Executive Director of Operations, who will walk us through the very specific details of the bond proposal and what it means for our schools and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grover. The thing that I always reflect on when I think about the bond process and the process that we went through is just what she talked about, that it is truly a community-based bond plan. Over hours and hours and hours of conversations and feedback loops, we came up with these 4 projects. Obviously, these 4 projects, you can see 3 of them are historical buildings that we wanted to focus on. We heard from the community that we wanted to focus on the buildings that we had and to reinvest in those buildings because they're important to the fabric of Cedar Rapids. Wilson Middle School would become an elementary building, reviving it. It's already had little kids in there, and then we would be able to reintroduce the littlest of little kids to that building and create a learning environment that would bring them along on their journey. Roosevelt Corridor Business Academy, in a neighborhood that is so important to the city. We want to reinvest in that building as well, creating a learning environment for the middle school and bringing Wilson students over to that building. Not only creating a facility that's modern, state-of-the-art, but also creating programs that will help students thrive. At this time, Wilson and Roosevelt sometimes struggle to get a full show choir or athletic team, and trying to find coaches to support those endeavors. By bringing Wilson and Roosevelt together, we would be able to have viable programs for those students. Kennedy High School. We are currently investing in Washington and Jefferson with the Freshman Academy and CTE buildings at those buildings right now. It's Kennedy's turn to also have a Freshman Academy. We know that kids that are successful as a freshman are much more highly likely to graduate as seniors. Those students that can transition from middle school to high school and has a successful transition are on their way to success in high school. We want to make sure that we provide a unique learning opportunity for our freshmen at all three of our major high schools so that when they come to that building, they can transition to the next stage. And then obviously McKinley. McKinley sits in a key part of our city, in the Med Quarter. You may have read in the paper or saw that we just cut the ribbon on our new science lab, med lab in McKinley Middle School. We want to create opportunities like that throughout the whole building and create opportunities in the science and arts for our students to thrive. And to partner with Unity Point and Mercy Hospital and others to provide opportunities to our students so that they can see what it would be like to work in the healthcare field and other fields along the way. So those are our 4 projects that we are focusing on with the bond, and we're excited about those 4 projects. Thank you.
All right, now Lead and See Our Schools has become the kind of the public face in common language vote yes committee, and so Ron Corbett has become your second job, or I don't know how you want to refer to that, but can you talk a little bit about why you became involved in this program, and then I'll let you go into your presentation about why you believe voters should support this.
I want to thank Zach and the Gazette for hosting this forum, and especially for all of you just showing up tonight to learn a little bit about this issue. It is really critical for our community. I believe our school district's at a pivotal point. I spent 8 years as mayor of Cedar Rapids, and during that time people asked me a lot of questions about a lot of different subject matters, but one common question that people asked me, over the years, especially right after the flood, was, can we recover? Are we going to continue to be a vibrant community? Are we going to have jobs for people? And jobs is really always a top priority when you ask citizens about what they, want to see out of their community. So we worked really hard as mayor to get all those businesses that were flooded back up in business. And I think all of them, but maybe Swiss Valley and Souvenir Pens, left town. And it was sad that they did. But it just kept me to keep my pedal to the gas on creating jobs. And there's a couple ways to do that. You help existing businesses grow, or you bring more new businesses into your community. So maybe you've been on Interstate 380 and you see the new Sub-Zero manufacturing facility or All Rose Steel. Those were companies that came into town. We have to bring companies into town because sometimes companies leave. I don't know if you saw the old Longview Fiber, West Rock just closed down. So you have existing companies creating jobs, and you have new companies coming in to add to the jobs and sometimes replace the companies that left. When a company is looking to come here or expand, they ask them certain basic questions. And one of the basic questions they ask is, how good are your schools? Because we want to come to a community that has good, vibrant schools. And that hasn't changed in my role at the Economic Alliance, Zach, as we're trying to bring companies here and have existing companies expand. You have to have good schools, just like you have to have good health care. I think most of you, if you've ever been to Mercy or St. Luke's or PCI, you're probably pretty happy that they've invested in modernizing their facilities and having the best equipment to diagnose an ailment that you have, or in the event of a surgery, having the best equipment to be at that surgery and having the best nurses and the best doctors. Schools are similar. They need to have safe and secure buildings. They have to modernize their facilities from an HV, AC, heating and cooling, and having places where they too can invite and attract the best and brightest of teachers and staff. So that's why I'm supported from a professional level, Zach. On a personal level, I had 5 kids. They all went through the Cedar Rapids school system. They all started at Monroe, then they went to Erskine, made their way to McKinley, and then graduated from Washington. So that's 65 years of public education that my kids had. My mom was a teacher, my ex-wife's a teacher, my son's a teacher. And I bet if we went around the auditorium today, probably all of you could talk about someone in your family, that was a teacher, that worked at the school, or was in some organization that supported teachers. So it's just really personal for me to having my kids go through the Cedar Rapids public school system. And now they're grown, they're not here anymore, but I care about other people's kids too. So that's why I'm personally supporting this.
All right, thank you, Ron. Did you want to go into additional details?
Yeah, let me just talk about several strong reasons why people should vote for this. Reason number 1 is safety. So that's a nice word, is it? Safe and secure. But let me tell you what that really means, and it's hard sometimes for me to talk about this, because whenever there's a school shooting around the country, it breaks my heart, just as it probably does yours. So architects, 100 years ago, when they were asked to design these gorgeous buildings of Wilson and McKinley and Roosevelt, they weren't worried about school shootings back then. They weren't worried about having multiple access points for people to come in and come out. As a matter of fact, what were they mainly worried about? They were worried about fires. See, back then, we didn't have the modern sprinkler systems and the fire-prevented type of materials and stuff. So it made sense to have a lot of access points in the event of a fire. Kids aren't getting trapped and they can leave. Well, here we are 100 years later, and you ask architects today that are designing schools, they try to do it with one major access point. There's still exit points, but those exit points need to be secured from coming in. So that's pretty simple to me, to protect our kids and to protect our staff from an unfortunate incident. And number 2, the ADA Act, those of you who have been in politics for a long time know our former Senator, Tom Harkin, championed the ADA Act. Well, Tom Harkin wasn't 100 years old in the government when these buildings were built. He served for a long time, but all these buildings were designed so they're not ADA accessible for everybody. And they should be. We asked the county auditor to have voting locations at Wilson, McKinley, and Roosevelt so people could vote easily. We want people to participate, and they had to deny that because it doesn't meet ADA requirements for voting. No, it doesn't meet it for our kids and our teachers. And it isn't just for them. My wife had knee surgery, and we were going to go into one of the schools. She had a walker. I mean, she's not super old, but she still needed some help. So it isn't just the kids. People like to go to the events that their grandkids are there, and sometimes if they have mobility issues, if you're not ADA accessible. And then the third reason, Zach, and we can go to some additional questions, is from time to time things do need to be fixed up. And you have your own houses, and there's things that just need to be upgraded from time to time. Heating, venting, cooling, air conditioning, modernization of these buildings. And right now, these buildings are taking up a disproportionate share of the maintenance budget because they're old and they just consume more of it. So even though some of the other buildings aren't on the ballot, they kind of are. Because when you make the investment into the buildings, that frees up the maintenance money that you were using for that to be spread around the other facilities. So this really is for me personally, as I've already shared that, and professionally from the Economic Alliance, a very simple plan and a very much needed plan for the Cedar Rapids community.
All right, thank you, Ron. And for folks, if you have questions, happy to take those and work them in. I'll start with a couple of basic ones that I had. Was hoping that someone would speak to the impact of the proposed bond referendum. What is the impact to a homeowner in Cedar Rapids?
Sure, thanks, Zach. So we'll just use a home of a value of $200,000 just to kind of give us a baseline. When we're looking at our current tax rate as it is as of today, we're at $13.65. And if you can go back 2 slides, thank you. So we're at $13.65. And you can kind of see that we are the lowest tax rate in Lynn County. Those are the other schools in Lynn County compared to Cedar Rapids Community School District. It's also important to know that we have not asked for a bond. We asked in November 23, but before that it was 2000, so 23 years ago. When or if the bond were to pass, then our tax rate would go up to $14.72, which puts us at the second lowest school district in Lynn County. And so what does that mean for a homeowner of a value of $200,000? It would raise your taxes by $7.47 a month, or an additional $89.60 a year. So that's kind of the impact. If you read that chart there, you can see the other values of the homes on the far left and kind of go across and see what the impact would be for you.
Thank you. Let me maybe mention a couple things as it relates to that. So Chad was very articulate. We have one of the lowest or the lowest property tax rate of all the schools. So we got like 11 school districts, so you know them all: College Community, Marion, Linn-Mar, Center Point, Springville, Alburnett. You know them all. We have the lowest. And even if this passes, we'll still be one of the lowest. I think maybe Central City or Northwind might be a little higher, but the metro area, we're going to still be well below a College Community, Marion, and Linn-Mar. It really is affordable, but if you want to say, all right, that's $89, they're asking us to pay $89 more. And that's how it works. The school district sells a bond, and then they have to make those bond payments. Just like when you buy a house and you borrow the money, you have to make your house payment, and most people get that over a 20-year period, and if you stay in your house long enough, you pay it off, and then you don't have that payment anymore. And they've used the resources from the SAVE fund, which is the state sales tax. We won't get too complicated on it, but this is the only option now for the middle schools. So it's really going to be a giant step to get these 3 buildings done. So a $200,000 house. Let's see, I've been in 3 different houses in Cedar Rapids. My first house was down in Mound View neighborhood over on D Avenue. So we're at 1517 D Avenue, just a half a block down from the Dairy Queen there, off D and 17th, and right next to the Co football field. You kind of know the area. My 2 kids went to Polk, so they were polka dots. And we were sad when that school was going to close. And when they closed, the school district had meetings and talked about it, but they made some adjustments, so we were sad about that. We lived there, we moved to that area because they had a school. And for various reasons, they had to close it, enrollment and issues and stuff like that. It was no fault of the school district, but it kind of hurt the value of our house, losing the school. So if you think about it, if you have a $200,000 house, and we live in Iowa, so we can't expect to see 10% increases in our homes, like you go to Phoenix or California, New York, Florida, all these places. The houses that we live in now, if they were in those, states, would be twice the value. But we can expect to see reasonable increases. So a 1% increase in a $2,000, or $20,000 or $200,000 house is $2,000. So think of it this way: you're gonna invest $89 million in the schools, but you're gonna see a growth of value in your house. And if it's just 1%, you're getting back an extra $2,000. So how many people know one day they're gonna sell their house? And would you rather have your house next to a newer or modernized school? So people that have kids wanna buy that house and have more people wanting to buy your house? Or do you want you in a neighborhood that doesn't have a good school? I think most people would say that we want it in a good school. We want to be by a good school. And that's why people are sad when schools close. So I think it's a very reasonable investment. And I don't take lightly the fact that, you know, the economy isn't perfect and people are concerned, especially those on fixed incomes and stuff like that. But I think it's a good investment, not just in the school districts, but in making sure the value of your house doesn't drop, it actually goes up.
Thank you. We have quite a few questions from the audience, and so I didn't set time limits on questions to get through as many as we can. Please, let's try and be as brief as we can. And so, Ron, that's at you. Anyway, I wanted to ask a couple questions, and you brought them up in your answers, or you brought it up in your reply, but can you talk a little bit about why PEPL, and why not PEPL, and why not SAVE, and why a bond is necessary in this case?
So real quick on school finance, as most of us already understand, there's many different buckets of money that we use for the different things that we need to spend on in education. The general fund will allow us to hire staff and deal with benefits and those types of things. Within the facilities world, we have three buckets, one being the PEPL bucket, one being the SAVE bucket, and then if we were able to fill the bond bucket, that would also help us with our financial situation. In 2017, the district developed a plan for the elementary buildings, and SAVE was going to be that funding mechanism that was going to allow for us to address the elementary needs in those buildings. We continue to use SAVE money to address our elementaries, and we will continue to look at how we can utilize that bucket for the elementaries. PEPL is our maintenance money. It keeps us warm, safe, and dry. It allows us to do the maintenance that we need to do. It also does allow us to do some construction and projects, but primarily we have a 10-year plan of PEPL projects that will allow for the 31 attendance facilities to be able to stay open and function as they need to. So if we want to address all our facilities and try to modernize all our facilities and provide the best education for all of our students, we really need to fill that third bucket, which would be the bond bucket. And that would allow for us to do what we're asking to do. So we don't have enough SAVE and PEPL to do all the things we want to do. That's why we have to try to fill that bond bucket.
And then the question is, how long will the bond be needed? What is the length of term?
It's a 20-year bond, so over 20 years we would pay it back. The nice thing about the bond is that if we're asking for $117 million, and over the 4 projects, if it comes in at $100 million, we would only borrow for that amount of money, and then that's less money that we'd have to pay back. So, but it is a borrowing against the money that we would get in over the 20 years and pay back over 20 years.
One of the questions that's come in is also, what are the efforts in order to preserve the history of the building? Can you speak a little bit about how the historical elements, what you're doing to preserve that in the buildings?
So I'm going to point to a project that we are now working on, and actually we broke ground on this in Harrison Elementary. So we obviously are renovating Harrison and adding on to Harrison Elementary so that we can have a school in that neighborhood. And we've been able to go through the building with the architect as well as other people within the Historical Society and Save CR Heritage and all those folks, and really identify different aspects of that building that we want to make sure that we preserve and put back into the architecture. The main piece of that, though, is the exterior facade, the outside of that building, and making sure we maintain that when you drive up, you see that Tudor-style building in that neighborhood. And so that would be the same kind of premise that we would work for on those 3 middle schools, is the beautiful architecture on the exterior of that building, and going inside and then transforming those learning environments on the inside for more modern type learning experiences. So that exterior facade would be the most important architectural detail that we would like to keep. But there's also things inside the building, like there's a small mural that was painted by Grant Wood and McKinley above a display case. things like that we would make sure that we would identify and save and reintroduce into the new architecture. So far, we have not engaged in that process for the middle schools because at this time, we don't know if we would be moving forward those projects. We have to see if the bond passes first before we get into really engaging. But what we would do is make sure that we engage with the city of Cedar Rapids, their historical group, and other historical groups throughout the city to make sure that we can identify that in those architectural details.
One of the other questions that is here is, are there any audits or special mechanisms that are put in place to make sure that the money is spent appropriately?
Yes, thank you so much, Zach, in terms of being fiscally responsible. One of the first things to note about the general obligation bond is that the dollars must be spent as printed on the bond language. So we can't use it for anything else, and that is by law. The other opportunities that we have within our school district that we honor and value, we have an audit each year. They will also be auditing all funds throughout the district. That happens on an annual basis. And as Chad was speaking, how we prepare ourselves to sell the bonds as we move through, if the bond would pass. And we have to have a public hearing. That's done at our school board meetings. It's advertised. The public is welcome to attend those and to bring voice into the conversation, another layer of accountability. Now, while this is not required, but as a school district, we've taken an extra step. We do have a finance and facilities committee that meet on a monthly basis where we're also providing reports and updates and where they can also have some oversight of those dollars as well.
One of the questions from the audience is, will the somewhat recent purchase of the land near Highway 100 for a future school be sold to support the facility plans? If not, why not?
So we know that as we plan for today's construction and hopefully tomorrow's construction, we also need to think about construction down the road. We also need to think about where our demographics are growing and where our growth is in the district. We feel that it's very important for us to be able to think about the growth in Robbins, Hiawatha, and Palo, and that part of Cedar Rapids. And it's also very important that when that growth happens, because it's happening right now, I live out in that area, and there's new homes going up in that area within the Cedar Rapids Community School District boundaries. As that new development and that new growth happens, we have to put ourselves in a position to be able to be nimble enough to react to that. And so down the road, it'll be vital to have that property where it is to be able to react to the growth that's going to happen within that part of the city. While we invest in the neighborhood schools and the schools that are part of this bond and making sure that those neighborhoods are vital as well, and also being growth in those neighborhoods and bringing homes or bringing families back to those neighborhoods as well.
And I would only mention this, Zach, as we've been out talking to people, going through the campaign, getting signatures and knocking on doors and stuff. That question, Zach, has come up a couple times with residents, and I basically say the same thing, Chad said too. But also remember, it's land. So it's not like the value of the property is going to go down. It's not like the school district wasted the money, flushed it down the toilet. They have this land for future growth, and if the community does end up supporting a new middle school at some time in the future, they'll have that land locked in at a lower price. And if for some reason it never materializes, then they always have the ability to sell the land. So it isn't like the money is gone. It's just, instead of in an investment account, it's parked in land right now.
We had a second related question, and I just want to ask it so that it's explicitly out there. Will any of the $117 million in the bond referendum be used to buy land?
No, and as Dr. Grover already spoke to, we aren't able to use that money for anything other than what the bond language is, so we're very restricted in that regard.
Okay, Ron, I wanted to ask, we've seen in recent weeks several groups, community groups, have been giving endorsements, and that is something that did not happen in earlier iterations to the level that it has this time around. Can you talk a little bit about what's different in this campaign?
Well, thank you for the question. You're right, Zach. We've seen a lot of groups and organizations that last time we're maybe on the sidelines when we had this vote 2 years ago, or a similar vote. It's not the same vote. Obviously, it's a much simpler plan with the 3 middle schools in Kennedy. But they've come forward. They've raised their hand and said, we want to be part of this community coalition. And I think Dr. Grover, said that. She said, this isn't her bond issue. It's not the school board's bond issue. It's the community bond issue. So organizations that you probably know, probably heard of, maybe you volunteered for them or donated or have helped them out, Tanninger Place, ASAC History Center, Bruce Moore, NAACP, the Zach Johnson Foundation, ARC, Horizons, Foundation 2, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Matthew 25, Boys and Girls Club, Catherine McCauley, Waypoint, LBA, NuvoCo, YPN. I'm going to keep going because there's a lot of them. Kids First, Abbey Center, Unity Point Health, ACAP. All the legislators in Lynn County that represent Cedar Rapids, Democrats and Republicans, the supervisors, the City Council of Cedar Rapids, the mayor, all the council members, the mayor of Hiawatha, the mayor of Palo, all these elected officials, Hawkeye Labor Council, the Cedar Rapids, Iowa Buildings and Trades. That's the plumbers, the pipe fitters, the electricians, the carpenters. They're all on board, and Feed Iowa First is on board. And let's see, the Teachers Association, they're on board. So everybody came to the same conclusion. They didn't start at the same point. Some came to the conclusion faster. Some had a lot of questions along the way, just like you do. But they all came to the same conclusion that our community needs this. And I think that's a great testament of these organizations, that many of them work directly with the school district and see every day. They're in the schools and they see they see the importance of this. And so it really has turned into a community all-in coalition, Zach. And that's why I'm optimistic about November 4th, that we have a much better shot of getting this passed. It's a big threshold, 60%. And a normal election, people just need 50% of the vote plus 1. But the legislature makes it really hard for school districts and requires a 60%. So we have to just keep working and building the coalition. And that's why I brought some extra yard signs, so if anybody wants to take one on their way out, they're welcome to.
We had a question as well as, why does the plan not include specifics on how the schools will be renovated? And Chad, I think in your answer just a couple seconds ago, you were alluding to you have to have approval to work with an architect on those plans. Is that kind of?
Yeah, so we wouldn't want to put the cart before the horse. So before we hire an architect and invest money in that, we definitely want to make sure that we have the go-ahead to do that. So we have a conceptual idea that there's big boxes that we know that we're going to have to address: gymnasiums, cafeterias, media centers, those types of things. But where they go and how they're placed on campus or within those buildings, and how we renovate those buildings and get into the minutia of that's going to happen if the bond were to pass. The other thing about that is we want to make sure we're involving the teachers, the students, the parents, the community members in those discussions about how we renovate those buildings and how we're going to utilize those buildings, just like we have for West Willow, Maple Grove, and Trailside, and also Harrison, Hoover, and Van Buren. So we want to make sure that we're including those people, but we also want to make sure we can go ahead with that before we do that process.
Another question from the audience: how will the bond issue support career pathways? And maybe an adjacent question, do you want to give a couple words of what are career pathways, just since that's a fairly niche term that folks in the community may not be familiar with?
Yes, very good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the career pathways, and really the opportunity to expand the work that's been happening in the Cedar Rapids Community School District for years, as I understand it. When we think about when our students graduate, we want them to graduate with more than a diploma. We want them to be prepared for their next steps in life. What the career pathways opportunities allow for students to be able to earn college credits while they are still in high school. It also gives them the opportunity to engage with the trades, industry, businesses within our organization, within our community, as well as take classes from our surrounding colleges and universities, specifically Kirkwood and other institutions. And so students can earn the college credits, they can earn industry certifications. They also have the opportunity to participate in internships and apprenticeships with the goal of them having unique experiences and opportunity to ignite interest and passions. Ultimately, when they graduate, they can choose to do whatever they like. Some students will go off to college, some students will go into the military, and some students will go straight into the workforce. We just want to make sure that they have the opportunity to be productive within our community or wherever they land. As it relates to the bond, the 4 projects, they are clear. These are the projects that the bond will fund in terms of McKinley, Wilson, and Roosevelt, and as well as Kennedy High School cafeteria and the Freshman Academy.
All right, a question that we had, and this relates, I think, maybe down the road a bit, but what support initiatives are factored into plans for students, staff, and families when you combine schools? How will you approach that?
Maybe repeat the question.
So what support initiatives are factored into the plan for students, staff, and families when you combine enrollments?
Okay, all right, wonderful. So just the experiences that we've had in terms of bringing the parents together and engaging our staff members, we've already started some of those conversations because they have the awareness around the bond and what it would mean for combining schools, and so they've already kind of given some insight and just making sure that we're able to bring them back to the table, having a clear communication, clear timeline, understanding the needs and supports that would make for a smooth transition. As we kind of think about our buildings, and we were kind of taking a look at the combination of our buildings, and actually when we think about Roosevelt and Wilson coming together, at Roosevelt, it was designed to hold 800 students from the beginning. So actually we have the opportunity to return it back to its glory days. And our teachers they always talk to us about the teaming opportunities where they can put all their 6th graders together, their 7th graders and their 8th graders, and really support them in unique ways. And so we will be collaborating with them to ensure that that happens. We also recognize that we will need to continue to expand our transportation efforts and make sure that our processes are set up to accommodate families as well.
All right, thank you. I want to ask kind of a 2-part question, and the first part is, if the bond passes, what happens next? How quickly do the projects move forward? Do you anticipate selling the bonds in one block? What is the plan there?
So from a design phase or a design aspect, we would love to get the ball rolling quickly. We realize that construction costs always seem to go up as the time goes by. So we would start to engage a group of community members and staff members to help us identify the design team that would be identified to work on these projects. We would like to do that as soon as possible, as I stated. The selling of the bonds really would only need to happen once we needed to get that money to pay for construction. So the design phase would be about a 12-month process once we get a design firm on board. So the large chunk of those bonds would need to be sold for quite a while. And then we would sell them as needed so that we could take that money in as we needed it.
Do you anticipate phasing the construction projects, or is there going to be this, do it all at one time, have the disruption and get past that? How are you going to approach that?
So disruptions are relative to those that are being disrupted. And I say that because when you say do all the projects at once and make the disruptions at one time, Roosevelt's disruption is going to be different than McKinley's disruption. But to your point, yes, it would need to be a phased project, just because we would have to really rely on times of the building at their lowest capacity, as well as really working with how do we maintain the best educational experience while we're also renovating those buildings. So there will be a lot of discussions around the table about how much can we bite off during the school year and how much do we do over the summer years or months, and how long will that actual construction take throughout the process. So I anticipate those buildings that will have students in them to be a longer construction process than a building that's empty, for sure.
Ron, I wanted to ask you, you've been in the community advocating for this quite a bit. Not everybody is on board, and I'm sure that you come across skeptics from time to time. What is the concern that you're hearing most often, and how do you address it?
Well, thanks for that question. Yeah, we do run into people that are no votes or they're undecided and ask a lot of questions about the plan. Most of them I can answer from, the buildings and the safety and the ADA and everything. There's been really little comment about people saying, well, I don't think Wilson needs to, be accessible. I don't think Kennedy needs to be have this cafeteria upgraded. So most people don't argue against the plan, the basics of the plan. There's certainly concerns on the cost issue, or they have a gripe, with the school district. And I was in government for a long time, and people always had a gripe with the city. Sometimes it was a pothole, sometimes it was they didn't get the garbage picked up on time. We always have issues with government, local government, state government, certainly the federal government. People have a lot of gripes about the federal government, and sometimes they have gripes about the school district. I heard people griping about Superintendent Benson when he built the Taj Mahal on Edgewood Road. Well, okay, that was over a decade ago. Don't vote no because of what Dr. Benson and the school board did 18 years ago. So there's always some of that comes in, Zach, about the school district, and I've come to have a great appreciation for Dr. Grover and her history and what she's done over her years. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to put your team together. It takes a little bit of time to hit your stride. I recruited Jeff Pomerantz to Cedar Rapids. Well, he didn't have a team right together, and he had a kind of a dysfunctional city council. Believe me, I knew it. I was on it. And but it took him a couple of years to get his team hit his stride, and now people feel pretty good about the direction of Cedar Rapids. Same with Marty out at the airport. He was brand new to the community. It took him a little bit of time to get his team together and get his stride, and people are pretty happy about the airport now. We like that new terminal. It's really easy access, a lot of flights going in and out, record number of people flying. So I believe Dr. Grover is no different than those two. She's working hard, putting her team together and hitting her stride. And she needs to do that. She needs to focus on improving the outcomes of education. I don't care what your gripe is with the administration. We still have an issue with our school buildings. So we have to fix up McKinley, Roosevelt, Wilson one way or the other. So, let's not punish our kids for some historical gripe we may have with the school district or some current grievance that we have because they don't like a particular thing.
Chad, I wanted to ask, this question came up, and how does the plan, in terms of long-term dollars for maintenance of these facilities, what will it mean, if you have a bond improvement, if you're able to complete these projects, what does that do in terms of, changing the PEPAL list in those buildings that are in the bond? How much money does that free up? And how do you, what savings are there?
Sure. So as I think about this question a lot, and my daughter has a vehicle, she's in college right now, and about every 2 months she has to dump a quart of oil in there or she can't drive it, right? And so there's cost of that oil there. And so what I think about is some of the buildings that we have in our district, there's annual cost that we have at these buildings that we wouldn't have if they were more modernized or newer buildings. It's getting cold out. Frost is going to happen tonight, I believe, and we had to turn on these older boilers in some of these elementaries. And those are boilers that a lot of our people don't know how to operate anymore because they're so old. So we have to hire out to a plumbing and heating company that has that experience to come in and do that so that they're safe. And so there's cost there as well. So, and then just with the PEPAL money that we're using to maintain these buildings, if we're able to modernize or replace or renovate buildings, the money that we're putting into those buildings that we do modernize, we can reallocate that to other things. And right now we're using our PEPL funding to replace roofs and to do concrete work and asphalt work and to work on plumbing or upgrading restrooms in buildings. And if we were able to recapture that money, we could maybe start to focus on auditorium lights or other things that would have a direct positive impact on our students.
We've reached kind of the final 5 minutes mark of the hour together, and I want to be respectful of people's time. But I wanted to offer each of you, is there any theme that we didn't get to tonight that you wanted to address or information that you think folks should know? Otherwise known as the closing statement.
I'll go first and leave the best for last. One of these two can fight for that. But I would just say the theme that I would leave tonight with is gratitude. As a former government teacher, I'm kind of into politics and elections and that type of stuff. And I truly feel like no matter how you vote, make sure you vote. And no matter how the outcome comes, this is truly going to be a citizens and a cities and a communities bond, because we continually asked for the voices and you continually showed up. We read all the thousands of comments on those 2 surveys that came in and processed all of those comments. I still have one of them sitting on my desk today. We asked for people to come out to different events and give us feedback. We've gone to neighborhood meetings. I feel so much more connected to the city that I grew up in. I can't imagine the whirlwind that I went on to meet all the different people that I have met throughout the city. And I feel blessed to be a part of Cedar Rapids. And I just am grateful for the community efforts of this bond. And it's truly, truly been a great experience for me.
Well, thank you so much, Chad and Ron, and to the Gazette for bringing us together. I really do believe that this opportunity to really think about the facilities within the Cedar Rapids Community School District is giving us the opportunity to come together as a community and really think about our future. We are at a critical juncture within the Cedar Rapids Community School District. We're faced with a number of challenges and opportunities. But what gives me great hope is really looking back on this process. Really starting with the community, giving us the input, giving us the feedback, and really getting in the trenches with us to really help us get back to our values, valuing the history and the tradition, the resilience of this community, but moreover, valuing education. I'm in my 3rd year here. I still feel like this is the right decision for me in a community that I've come to respect more and more every single day. Ron, I think about the story that you shared with me during the time of the flood, and how each person was kind of just moving like the sandbags from one person to the next, really thinking about how we were going to rebuild this city. That image, it still sticks with me. The people that were serving meals, everybody was playing a role in this process. And so for me, I'm glad to be a part of it, that I can play a role in helping Cedar Rapids be the best place to get an education in the state of Iowa. It is time for us to do that. The community has proven with the list of people that you have named out, with the resources that were put behind this, that they also believe it. So I want to thank you for being in this room with us tonight, and for all the folks that are watching online. Thank you for believing in Cedar Rapids Community School District, and I do believe that our best days are in front of us.
Well, I believe in Cedar Rapids Community School Districts, and I hope you do too. There's 3 positions that people are in here. They're either yes votes, they're no votes, or they're undecided. If you're a yes vote, thank you. Please make sure you vote. But I'd also like to ask you for an additional favor. Because the 60% threshold is so high, your vote is important, but we need more votes. So if you would, if you're a supporter, and if you're on social media, post something on there why you're a supporter. And if you're not, and you're in a book club or a water aerobics club or in a coffee club, or you have your neighbors, you're in a walking club, between now and the election, tell them why you're supporting yes, why you're voting yes, and tell them they should also. Give them some good reasons. And if you're undecided or if you're a no, I'd only ask you to just go to the website for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Believe in CR Schools, and read some of the letters that these organizations, or read the letter that our mayor and the city council wrote to Dr. Grover. There's so many more reasons that they can articulate much better than I. But you're here tonight from a curiosity standpoint, where you're watching because you're curious. Take a few more minutes and go to that website and read some of those letters. And I think once you do that, I think there's a very, very compelling reason why you should go from undecided to yes. And even if you're a no or a strong no, why you should consider that position. But wherever you are, we respect it, and we hope that everyone as possible will come out and vote. So thank you.
All right, now early voting for the November 4th ballot is underway at the Linn County Auditor's Office. In addition to the Cedar Rapids School Bond, voters will find 3 Cedar Rapids School Board seats and multiple City Council seats on the ballot in addition to the bond referendum. Each of these races matter to the current and the future generations of the community, and it's important that as many people as possible vote and encourage their friends to vote too. To see an list of early voting sites and hours, check the Linn County Elections website through the Linn County Auditor's Office. If you prefer to vote on Election Day, Tuesday, November 4th, polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thanks again to the members of the panel, Dr. Grover, Chad, Ron, thank you for taking your time this evening to join us, and to our audience, thank you for taking your time to join us as well. Additional coverage throughout this can be found on thegazette.com. This forum will be made available there tomorrow as additional details about all of the candidates appearing on the ballot as well. On behalf of the Gazette team, Becky, Elena, Grace, thanks for your time tonight. Have a great night. Thank you.